And welcome to the Crash the Pond podcast. It is a Monday, April 15th, game 81 edition of Crash the Pond. Jake, we're one game away from the Duck season being entirely over. How does it feel?
It is weird that the season's over or about to be over. I don't think
Yeah.
there's really any other way to put it. I feel like this season's flown by in a way that last season did not.
Mm-hmm.
This is a season I feel like it has different phases of it. It like very distinct different phases with different kind of
You know what this
highs.
season reminds me of?
What?
It reminds me of the 21-22 season, where it started off great and it eventually fizzled out and kind of limped to the finish line.
Yeah.
Does
Yep.
that track? I think actually
Uh,
that year's Ducks team actually had a more prolonged good stretch than this year's Ducks
Yeah,
team.
yeah. It's a little different because they were in the playoff race up until maybe a month
December.
before the deadline. Like this team, like had that really fun start. Then you kind of had the prolonged cold stretch that went about 11 or 12 games, and then all of the injuries kind of in the middle that really felt like it took them out. And it felt like there were some good games in between there, some bad games in between there, and it just kind of felt like it almost felt like a season that was kind of all over the place. It was a bit of a mess, but in a way that felt like it made the season go on faster. If
Yeah.
that makes any sense.
Yeah. So today what we're going to do on the podcast is we're going to go over some late impressions here the last couple weeks since you haven't heard from us since that time. Go over some recent news, and then we got a question in our Discord, which everyone should go check out. Great way to support the podcast and join the community. From, I believe it was Mr. Jared, asking to do grades for every player. And what I'm going to do here, Jake, he asked
Okay.
this, I'll give him credit. April 12th, he asked, as the season comes to an end, I would love to see a final player grades for the season. If this is too long of a question/bit, I would love this as a Patreon episode. Well, Jared, ask and you shall receive. I've compiled grades, and what we will do is we will get through the most recent stuff, and then probably in the second half of the show, I'm just going to throw these grades at Jake unprompted.
Okay.
He doesn't know what's coming. He hasn't
I
done
have
any
zero
grades.
clue.
So we're going to get just pure gut reactions from Jake, and you're going to get we'll call them thought out grades for each player. So we've got a lot to discuss today.
Okay.
We've got purpose. We've got direction.
Perfect.
But so end of the season here. There's one game left, Vegas. We'll get into why that game matters in a little bit. But just your impressions of the last couple weeks of Ducks hockey here.
Oh man, Trevor Zegras is a truly special talent.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is my greatest takeaway here. Just the fact of the matter that it feels like he's finally gotten healthy, finally has a good stretch here, and it feels like he's really kind of impacted these games. It feels like he has really shown what makes him special, what makes him entertaining. Think back to that the first game against LA where he he had that goal coming down the wing, right? Or now
Yep.
I think I'm mixing up all these games now in my head. He had a goal in that game though, right? Yeah.
You're correct.
And then he almost had the jumping tip play that almost went in. Like he just was all over the place playing a fantastic game. And then the game in LA also had a great game. The only real poor game in this last little stretch, I think, is the game against Calgary where it felt like they no-showed a bit. But I think just overall takeaways from this is this team missed Trevor Zegras a lot throughout this season. Like, I don't think that the impact of him missing over about 3/4 of the season can be understated, and the impact that that's had on this team. Because I think that what this has shown is, I think going into the season, I would have said he's the most skilled player on this team, but Troy Terry was the best player on the team, and I think Troy Terry has had really, really good stretches at various points in time, and I've been singing his praises. He's had a bit of a rough go of it of late, and I think what it's kind of shown is just how important Trevor Zegras is to this team. And so yeah, he's gonna have played 31 games this season, so under half the season.
Yeah, I mean, I think Zegras, it took him a little bit to
Yeah.
get back to where we thought he could be. There was the whole bench gate, we'll call it, but really, you don't want to see anyone get hurt, but Mason McTavish going down kind of freed up, kind of just ended the debate of whether Zegras will be at the wing or center. They just kind of needed him to be at center. I guess
Yeah.
in theory they could have put like Ryan Strome, or they could have gone about it different ways, but they put Zegras and left him at center, put him between Vetrano and Strome, who are two like real NHL wings. You can debate how good they really are, but they are, solid veteran players. And it feels like every game he's kind of just getting a little better, a little more comfortable. And a player like Trevor Zegras, he's so smart that the more information he's able to collect, the more information that he's able to gather, he's going to be able to make those reads that he's already making at a faster rate than most people. He's going to be able to make them even faster. He's thinking less and he's reacting more. He's playing on instinct. And I think that what's the most intriguing thing to me, and you touched on it, is that the goals he's scoring, like his shot, yes, some of these goals, he's really getting a chance to step into it and he's got a lot of time and space, but he's just beating goalies clean. And if that can become a factor in his game, like he's opening up a whole new category of impact.
Yeah. And just from a production standpoint, I know you and I don't always look at production, but throwing out the first two Seattle games and the Edmonton game as being kind of working his way back into it, things like that. Since the Vancouver game, he has 6 points in 6 games.
Yeah.
Or sorry, 7 points in 7 games.
Yeah.
So, like, he's producing how he should. He's playing good defensive hockey. He's making good plays below the goal line, being good on the back check, good at producing offense. I mean, there was the strip of the puck that he had. That was the game, the home game against the Kings, where he strips the puck, goes into the offensive zone, and just makes a ridiculous shot to score. Mm-hmm. And that just shows kind of how I think he's always had that in his game, but I think that's just a great example of the type of defensive game that he can bring with that type of hounding of the puck and getting it away from a Kings player to be able to go down and score that goal.
Yeah, and then the other player that I think has stuck out as of late is Olen Zellweger.
Yep.
He for good and for bad. I think that he's really finding his footing offensively. Picking up a goal against Calgary and just like generally being very involved on that end. He looks to me, he looks great on the power play. He's also had moments where he's had some miscues and where he's made bad pinches or he's made bad reads, and that's ended up being, costly for the Ducks on the score sheet. But overall, like the two Z's to me are really kind of hitting their stride as the season is ending.
Yeah, Olen Zellweger looks really good. I think he definitely does a lot of things to make your eyes kind of focus on him in a good way and also in a bad way at various points in time. But I think you got to take the good with the bad right now, because now it's the end of season. It's the learning curves. He's going to make those plays, but you want him to be able to play that free type of game and not feel a bit muzzled, because I think when he first came up, he was fine, but you could tell that he kind of almost felt like the leash was on him a little bit. Like he was trying to not fully do what he can do. And it almost feels like ever since the trade deadline, it's kind of been more of a situation where he can just kind of go and do what he needs to do what he make his reads the way he wants to make them. And it's a treat to watch when he's going.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that it's okay the way that he's kind of approached it. It's okay that he wasn't going all the way, full Olen Zellweger experience right away. And now he's spreading his wings, and there's going to be some adjustment period there, and it's just kind of a constant evolution. But it's good for him that he's going through this now, because it's just less mileage that he has to accumulate and accrue next season. That's why I think when we were talking about him when he got called up, it was like, there's just not really a ton left at the AHL now. Like he's got to come up and make mistakes in the NHL, and that's what he's doing. Like this is the process, and so we'll keep an eye on him.
Question on Zellweger for you.
Yep.
Does he play against Vegas?
Why wouldn't he?
If he plays one more game, he loses his rookie status for next season. I don't think it actually matters, but just a funny little thing.
Yeah. I don't know if that matters that much to him.
There goes the Calder Trophy for Zellweger next year.
I mean, he was skating at an optional skate today. So
wasn't Zegras also?
No.
Oh,
no.
Okay.
It was Colangelo.
Oh, sorry.
Who I was trying to get to here. So Sam Colangelo signs his ELC with the Ducks. gets into NHL games, scores in his first NHL game. And I mean, generally, like we also got to see him a bit in the AHL, but like generally, Sam Colangelo looks really good. Like I did not watch him at all in college, and to be quite honest, he was kind of an afterthought once after he got drafted. I mean, he was drafted like 4 years ago now. I think he even joked about that in an interview. Like it's been a while,
Yeah.
but man, he came in, and I think unlike other players we've seen kind of come up in short stints, like I'm thinking of Nikita Nesterenko, I really see a role for Sam Colangelo like right away and long term because he's big. He knows how to use that physical stature of
Yep.
his. He's also smart with the puck, smart without the puck, knows how to protect the puck. He's got a nose for the net. He's got a good shot. Like he's just kind of a quintessential like bottom six, decent fourth line type that I think, Pat Verbeek is going to love.
Yeah, and he's able to find some soft spaces on the ice. I think there was one play where I think Silverberg gets it on the forecheck, or maybe it was Lundstrom. I can't remember off the top of my head. But it was the game against the Flames where they get in on the forecheck and they're able to retrieve a puck. And instead of kind of going in and joining the battle, he kind of stays in the soft space around the faceoff dot. And the puck is fed to him, and he's just has a little bit of time and space to take a shot. Doesn't end up scoring on that shot, but that's just kind of the exact type of play where you talk about guys finding soft spaces on the ice, making good reads away from the puck, where when you don't have the puck, of not jumping in, not adding that board battle, not getting too committed to playing physical, really trying to find soft spaces on the ice to make yourself open for a pass if you know that your teammate's going to get that puck. And that's what happened there. And I think that happened a couple different times where I think that was noticeable for me with Colangelo, along with kind of what you said. And I think he also showed some good acumen in the defensive zone with being able to get the puck off the boards and make a little breakout pass to whoever the center is to get out. And so I think you're spot on. I think there's more of a future for him than a lot of the other guys in the system as a bottom six type of forward because of that. And if he can have some sort of offensive talent on top of that, that's what you want. Like that is what it sounds like Pat Verbeek wants from the bottom six for this team next season.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that like his goal wasn't a highlight reel goal
No.
by any means, kind of a gimme goal, but he also had to work to get into that spot, and you pointed it out. But during the game, he got a couple of scoring chances, and in the AHL we saw him do that as well. So I don't usually harp on this as much, but I'm going to here. Like I think his size is actually an asset for him. Like you can just tell he's a big guy out there. But because he moves pretty well for his size, like I think his skating is better than what I anticipated, and because he's just smart enough, like he's gonna play, and it's great news for him. And as you touched on, it's also bad news for this like long line of tweener guys in the AHL right now, like the Nesterenkos. I mean, we'll throw in Tracy. Like you can go down the list. There's a lot of guys who are probably going to be blocked up by the arrival. I mean, hell, even like a Bo Grew by the arrival of Colangelo, but I think he makes the Ducks team just better in the short term and the long term.
Yep. I would agree completely with that.
And then you talked about his line mate, Jakob Silfverberg.
Yep.
Jakob Silfverberg announcing his retirement. He's going to be returning to Sweden after the conclusion of the season. He's signed a contract with Birnas. I think it's a 2-year deal, something like that.
Yeah.
But played his last home game, against the Flames, and the Ducks lost, but they did provide a spirited comeback at one point, and he got a really just wonderful send-off from the crowd, from the organization. He got this ping pong table as a gift.
Yeah.
What are your kind of highlights of Jakob Silfverberg?
I think my highlights of Jakob Silfverberg are just, I think during the peak of the Ducks run, the various different lines he was on, whether it was with Ryan Kessler, with Andrew Cogliano, and just the impact they had throughout 2015 and 2016, and just the defensive game that he had, along with coming up with kind of some big goals when they were needed throughout those various different runs. I think back to in 2015, the series against the Jets, the late goal that he had scored in, I think it was game 1 there, with like maybe 30 seconds left or a minute left in the game, to be able to take the lead and end up winning that game as a result of it. And so just one of the, I think, most solid players that the Ducks have had over that stretch, where he was just good defensively, not going to do the most for you offensively, but just was a really, really good player for this franchise. And it's weird to think about just how long and the tenure that he had with this franchise. And you look at the games played and just where he ranks on it. It's wild to think about, because I think when I think about that list with all of those players, you're thinking back to the earlier generations of this team, along with adding in the Ryan Getzlafs, these franchise cornerstones. And I think it's interesting to think about Jakob Silfverberg being in that conversation, just because I can remember when they traded for him. And so this is, I guess for me, the weird thing here is just Getzlaf and Perry, I don't remember them being drafted. I was not so into this team. I was a fan, but not like so in depth on everything when that all happened. I think the interesting thing for me with Silfverberg is just, I remember when Bobby Ryan was traded for him. And I think it's fascinating to think about just the fact that that he is now retiring and spent after that moment every season with the Ducks after that moment. And so I think it's just, the send-off was great. I think that's just kind of, for me, just thinking through it, it's weird to think through that side of it. But the send-off was fantastic. And I think you had put this in our Discord, or maybe it was in text message, but you don't get to see that type of send-off that often. Like, it feels very rare to be able to have that type of thing. And so I think it just was one of those moments that you just kind of wanted to soak it in as it was happening after the game, because I think back to like Teemu Selänne's final home game, or final home regular season game, and that special moment with J.S. Jaguar skating around the ice and everything like that. But it also was different at that time because they were about to go on a playoff run. So you don't have this same type of almost closure is what it feels like in that moment with Silfverberg. Getzlaf, you got that for sure. But it just feels so rare to have this guy that's with the franchise for so long to have that moment.
Well, look at Corey Perry.
Yeah.
I mean, Corey Perry, to me, will undoubtedly get his number retired.
Yep.
Has like an outside case for the Hockey Hall of Fame, and he didn't get a send off with the franchise that he's synonymous with. And so it's so rare for athletes to be able to go out on their own terms. And maybe that was part of Jakob Silfverberg's thought process, is he saw Ryan Getzlaf be able to do that.
Yeah.
But he got to come back from a very, dire health situation.
You and I both thought he was done.
Yeah. And he came back, had a great season. Honestly, he showed that he might be able to still play in the NHL a little while longer. But instead, he walks away, still up in gambling terms, and now he gets to go back to his home country, play for his original club, gets to be with his family. Like, it's just so perfect. And I'm really happy for him, because on one hand, no, we don't know these people. We don't know them personally, but from everything he's shown outwardly to the media and how his teammates talk about him, and he just seems like a really good dude. So I'm happy for him.
Yep, definitely. Also put me in a little bit of my own mortality thought process, because realizing he is just a year older than me.
Well,
so
sports mortality,
sure,
career mortality is not quite the same.
No, for sure.
I don't think your engineering career is on the decline.
For sure, but it is still just very interesting to see that. And like, my wife, or Monica, was asking me like, how old is he now? And I looked up. I was like, I thought he was 33, but just wanted to confirm. I was like, yeah, he's our age.
I mean, he looks good. He looks in great shape. Like, he does. He's gonna keep playing for hopefully a while. Is he playing at the World Championship? I don't know if he will be.
I don't know, but yeah. So really quickly, he is 5th all time for games played as a Duck. So more than Steve Ruchin, more than Paul Kariya, more than Francois Beauchemin. The only players that have played more games than him are Ryan Getzlaf, Corey Perry, Cam Fowler, Teemu Selänne.
Yeah, I mean, Cam Fowler's another one of those guys.
Cam Fowler is. I think Cam Fowler is that guy for me, because I was there when he got drafted.
Yeah, it's going to be weird when he eventually calls it a day.
It's going to be weird when he calls it a day. It's going to be weird if he is not on the Ducks at some point in time and is on another team. Like, I think that's going to be really weird for me. Because I think he's going to be on the team next year. So he's probably going to hit 1,000 games with the Ducks.
Yeah.
Like, I would be shocked if he didn't.
Yeah. And, the poetry of it all is that not only on the night where Silfverberg's kind of having his send-off, a new Duck scores his first goal in his first game. And then days later, Cutter Gauthier, the next generation, signs his ELC with the Ducks. And so his college season is over. He gets his 3-year entry-level contract, and he's going to get to play a Ducks, the long-awaited Cutter Gauthier debut. We've been talking about it now since, when did the trade happen? December, January, whenever that happened.
Yeah, it was January because it was the day before Zegras got hurt.
It's been months that we've been waiting for this, and he will be wearing number 61.
Yep. Out of curiosity, what'd you make? Because this got a lot of airtime on the Twitter discourse. What'd you make of Cutter Gauthier's pregame comments? So for those that missed it, he had a pregame interview ahead of the national title and was, I think, asked about it being an emotional night. He's like, yep, it's going to be emotional. He's like, I'm expecting to see a lot of tears on the other side of the ice tonight. Kind of insinuating something along those lines, that essentially he's confident that they're going to win and Denver's going to be crying because they lost and are bummed about it.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's a confident guy.
Yep.
We know that about him. And we also know that if you're going to talk a big game, you got to back it up. And his team got shut out. He didn't score. They lost. You're going to get flack coming back your way.
100%.
I mean, Trevor Zegras, remember the World Juniors a few years ago? Same thing. So, this isn't, I think it's really an American thing. It always seems to be the USA guys that talk shit to the media.
I also just don't have an issue with it. I guess that's my point on it.
No,
I don't have an issue with it. I don't have an issue with it. I think he actually played a good game. I think that the DU goalie played a really, really good game, and that is the reason that DU ended up winning that game. Zero issues with the guy being that confident that's been that good this season. Just like I had zero issue at the time with Trevor Zegras going into that game and making that sort of comment when he had said something about...
And I have no issue with, them getting dunked on a little bit after the fact.
Sure.
That's what happens.
Sure. It was just Philly fans going over the top as always.
Yeah, I mean the Philly stuff going over the top is out of bounds, but getting dunked on especially by the Denver fans afterwards, that's just
sure.
Good for them.
Definitely.
Good for them. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
definitely.
But yeah, I'm very intrigued to see him. I've probably watched 7 games of his by now, maybe a little less, but around there. And I feel like watching him in college, I mean, just to give everyone the quick scouting report, if you haven't watched him, he's a goal scorer. He's got a great shot. He loves to fire it. He loves to get open for shots. He has some physicality, some ability to drive play, to enter the zone, to stick handle in traffic. But he's got to want it. There's just a lot of games where he's kind of floating, where he's not really doing a whole lot, and you'll look up at the end of the game and he's got 3 goals because it's college. And so I'm very, very curious to see, and we're only going to get to see 1 game, so we're going to have to wait till next season. But what is the approach he's going to bring at the NHL level? Because if he brings the kind of full tilt Cutter Gauthier that we've seen in some of the bigger games, like the Beanpot comes to mind, I think he can be an excellent top 6 winger in the NHL. But sort of the stuff he got away with in college, he will not be able to get away with it on his own team. Greg Cronin will have an aneurysm if he sees Cutter Gauthier floating around, not necessarily battling out there. So I think it's going to be a bit of an adjustment for him. But if he can, kind of bring that intensity, he's going to be in an excellent spot to thrive.
Yep, definitely. Completely agreed.
And a lot of people are asking, and so we can just get to it now. Where's he going to play? On what line? And
I think he plays with Zegras.
We'll have an answer for that in less than 24 hours because the practice is tomorrow. And so I would imagine that we'll know, but I would like to see him next to Trevor Zegras.
I think realistically, I think Derek had this in our Discord when he was asked the question. This was not with any information, not outing Derek for anything like that. Just his gut feel on this, and I think it was pretty much spot on. But having Zegras with Gauthier and Vetrano, and then you drop Ryan Strome to be the center with Silfverberg and Colangelo, and you drop Lundestrom to the 4th line center.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Gauthier being on this team could make the whole kind of pecking order a lot more just
Yeah,
kind of organic and where
yeah.
and put guys where they should be.
Yeah, and we've had some people asking about, is Cutter more natural as a winger or a center? I think he's a winger in the NHL. I don't think he's a center.
I don't think so either, and I think that our opinion doesn't necessarily matter because it seems like he's slated to be a winger. Like the
Yeah,
GM talks about him as a winger, the organization refers to him as a winger, but I also just tend to agree. Like I don't think he's a center in the NHL. Like he's just not. He's just not a guy who's going to drive play on his
yeah.
own. He needs support around him.
And Trevor Zegras is perfect for that. One thing I actually want to mention that I forgot about earlier when we were talking about Zegras. I also think part of it with him is that it almost feels like his line mates weren't able to read the plays that he was making because he makes such unique passes where it took them a bit to get adjusted to his game, if that makes sense. And so I think that's potentially what we're seeing with the play that he's had lately.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes like if you're not used to playing with an elite playmaker and you start getting passes on your stick like through a couple layers of defense that you just didn't even know that was a possibility, it might take a couple games to adjust to that. I mean, again, no offense to Mason McTavish, I think he's a good player, but he's not the playmaker that Trevor Zegras is, and so there's going to be some adjustment. And Trevor Zegras, just the entire patterns of his game are completely different than McTavish, so it makes sense that there would be an adjustment period.
Yep. All right. Anything else before we jump into some of the words from our sponsor?
Nope.
All right. So this episode is brought to you by Green Chef. They are the #1 meal kit for eating clean. Let Green Chef take the work out of eating clean with their chef-crafted, nutritionist-approved recipes featuring fresh ingredients with nothing artificial. Choose from recipes featuring lean proteins like turkey, sockeye salmon, barramundi tilapia, scallops, and shrimp, certified organic whole fruits, vegetables, and eggs, and plenty of whole grain options. Nourish your body with flavorful meals made with clean ingredients. Choose from 80-plus weekly options that change every week, featuring delicious, nutritionist-approved mix-and-match meals to meet your lifestyle needs, including their quick and easy, protein-packed, calorie-smart, Mediterranean, keto, gluten-free, and plant-based options. They're also the #1 meal kit for eating clean with dinners to work for you, not the other way around. You can eat clean the easy way with recipes to help manage your weight and support your wellness goals without skimping on flavors. Feel your best with nutritionist-approved recipes, including calorie-smart meals under 650 calories, protein-packed meals with 30-plus grams of protein on average per serving, science-backed Mediterranean recipes, and flavorful, plant-rich vegan and vegetarian meals featuring certified organic whole fruits and vegetables, good for your grains, and plant-based proteins. It's also a sustainable option. They offset 100% of their delivery emissions, as well as 100% of the plastic in every box, plus nearly all packaging materials and curbside recyclable in most areas, and their seafoods meet the Monterey Bay Aquarium Seafood Watch rankings of certified best choice or good alternative. And it's also just so convenient and so easy. They deliver everything you need to eat clean the easy way. You can nourish your body with chef-crafted, nutritionist-approved recipes packed with clean ingredients to support your lifestyle and taste great too. You can power through your busy week with their convenient step-by-step recipes, including wholesome dinners ready in 30 minutes or less, and over 35% of their recipes can be made in 25 minutes or less. And that's not all. Save time with 10-minute lunches, grab-and-go breakfasts, ready-to-eat snacks, and bundles from Green Market. So that is Green Chef for you. And you can go to greenchef.com/60CTP and use code 60CTP to get 60% off plus 20% off your next 2 months. Once again, you can go to greenchef.com/CTP60 or 60CTP, and use code 60CTP to get 60% off plus 20% off your next 2 months. Once again, that's Green Chef, the #1 meal kit for eating well. And this episode's also brought to you by 714 Tickets. Hockey season's ending, but baseball season is here. So whether you're a diehard Ducks fan or you were an Angels fan and you were, or if you were just looking for a night of sports entertainment. 714 Tickets has got you covered, but here's the best part. At 714 Tickets, they're not just about hockey or baseball. They've got tickets to all of your favorite sports, concerts, and live events right at your fingertips. And the icing on the cake, they don't charge you a single dime in taxes or fees. That's right. At 714 Tickets, what you see is what you get. No surprises at checkout, and with their user-friendly mobile app, booking your tickets is a breeze. You can browse, select, and secure your seats within minutes. You can shop online at 714tickets.com, call 714-TICKETS, or visit their office located right in front of Honda Center. You get 10% off when you shop online using code CTP. And I used that promo code and this service to get tickets to the Angels game last week. And it is so simple to use, so great. So thank you all, or go check out 714 Tickets. Thank you to 714 Tickets.
Alrighty. So any final notes from the last week or so of play? Anything else you want to get off your chest before I rapid fire?
Lucas Dostal has been good. John Gibson has not been that great. What else?
Let me ask you this.
Leo Carlson looks dominant at times.
What is your final kind of takeaway from this season?
Injuries suck.
Yeah.
I think that's the easiest one. Injuries suck, and injuries to some of your top players. I think this season really puts it at the forefront how much of a strong link game hockey is.
Yes.
Because sure, you can have the depth, and I think that's one thing the Ducks do need to add is depth to be able to make up for these guys. But when you lose some of your top-end players for significant portions of the season, it's very difficult to make up for that. And what we're finding out is that Trevor Zegras is one of the most highly skilled players on this team. And when you're missing that, you're missing a whole lot of offensive creativity and offensive ability. And that's going to really hurt your ability to generate offense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can you hear me okay? I'm getting some
no, there are various points in time where your video is lagging behind you, like your lips are behind your voice.
Oh, that's fine. That doesn't matter.
Okay.
As long as the video is or as long as the audio is crystal clear, that's all that matters. Yeah, I mean, how do I want to frame this? I think that my view is like 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I think that the Ducks made a big step forward in their overall competency. I think that if you compare them to last season, they are no longer an incompetent hockey team. They've also now had new issues arise that take away from that step forward. Number 1, penalties. The penalties are just a total backbreaker, and you can't blame injuries on penalties. Like there's no injury variable on penalties. It's just something that they need to work out. They've been undisciplined. There's been multiple theories of, is it the system? Is it the way Greg Cronin teaches? Is that what's causing this proclivity? We don't know. And it doesn't quite matter. They just need to figure it out. So that's number 1. Number 2 is that this team's just whole offensive approach, their ability to create chances, some of that was definitely affected by the injuries, but also even when those guys were healthy, there are just times where this team just isn't able to generate scoring chances at a consistent enough rate to really have a chance to win its games. And that is something that it's unclear where Greg Cronin is trying to take his team with that. It's unclear really kind of what his answer is to that. As the season progressed, I didn't really see a lot of adjusting. I didn't really see a lot of kind of deviating from this core structure that Greg Cronin is trying to push of, let's be a hard-nosed defensive team and then what? And that was the problem, is that once they were able to recover the puck, yes, they were good on the rush, but that might have just been a product of, getting the puck back in the defensive zone. It was really unclear what this team's offensive philosophy was. And I think that we're at a point now in modern NHL hockey where it's not enough to just be like, I'm going to coach the defense, as in the head coach. I'm going to coach you guys to be good defensively, and I'm not going to coach you guys when you're attacking, because that's when you guys can do what you do, run free with your talent. I think that there was a time where that worked, even a few years ago, but nowadays teams are so refined. teams are so sophisticated in their approach that it's not enough to just coach that way. You have to also coach offense. You have to coach a way to generate scoring chances consistently. And as much as we dunk on the Carolina Hurricanes for the way that they've kind of done it, they found something that is sustainable, where they can sustainably and reliably generate offense. And the Ducks, it was very hard to tell what their plan is for that. So all this to say that I think this season was a very modest step forward, but there's still just a lot that needs to be figured out.
Yep.
Any issues with what I've said?
Not at all.
Wow, that's rare. Okay. Well, let's get into these player grades.
Okay.
So I'm gonna throw out some caveats, some explainers. An average grade is a B. I'm going with the law school standard curve, where a B is an average grade. So get that in your heads. Get that in your heads.
Okay.
Secondly, I am grading each player on their own curve. So it wouldn't make sense to grade Troy Terry and Brett Leason on the same curve. One guy makes $7 million. The other makes not even $1 million. So I'm grading each guy on what I expected from them and what they ended up giving us. I'm also grading guys on a combination of their production, their underlying impact analytically, and just kind of their eye test, what I've gathered over the course of the season. So, number 1, Troy Terry. 54 points this season, 20 goals. Poor underlying numbers. Maybe not. Maybe poor is a little strong.
Poor is harsh.
But poor offensive underlying numbers. Like, he just did not generate offense from that perspective. Overall, though, I think on the eye test level, we still saw a lot of what makes Troy Terry great. We also saw a lot of things that maybe he needs to sort out, where like not really playing with his team, not really playing with his line mates, kind of trying to do it all by himself. Like that it's just not really winning hockey. And, you can blame maybe some of the line mates for that, not having the right line mates or not having consistent line mates. But the results are the results. He's not going to get to 60 points. He's now making $7 million a year. I'm going to give him a little bit of a benefit of the doubt. I was going to go C+, but I'm going to give him a B-. Thoughts on
I was
B-?
expecting, to be honest, I was expecting you to go straight C.
No, he was below average. B- is below average in this framework, but I just don't think that I don't think he met my expectations this season.
I think that's fair.
I think he was below expectation.
I think some of it could be out of his control with line mates, but at the end of the day, he's getting paid $7 million this year, and you could say that being below 60 points at that cost is below where he should be.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that there's an argument to go lower, but I think I'm trying to be somewhat fair to him, and I think B- is the most fair. Alex Killorn. So Alex Killorn, limited this season because of injury, but his overall impact on the game analytically was just okay. Nothing really great, nothing really bad. Scored 18 goals in the limited games. And I think at times, kind of, especially once he got his knee procedure done, really you started to see kind of what he could bring. I thought about going lower, but I think in fairness to him, I'm going with the same Troy Terry grade of a B-. Your thoughts?
Yeah.
Because he's making $6.25 million.
That's I guess the question is,
Yep.
where if we're factoring in that salary, I think you could maybe make an argument to go a bit lower, but I think also maybe
he was
being
injured.
a bit. Yeah, I was about to say being kind to him and saying, okay, after the knee scope, he's looked a lot better. So yeah, I think B- is fair.
Okay, next up, Trevor Zegras. I am giving him a B. So B is right about average. B is right about what I expected. I mean, the production just wasn't there. And that is part of how we grade players. He's also making over $5 million now, so it's not the same curve. But I think he really, really improved his overall game. I think that he showed a lot more than he has in years past. I think that part of his struggles maybe you can attribute to the way he was used. But I think that he met my expectations. He didn't really exceed them. He was right in line with what I kind of saw for him. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more kind of offensive impact. But overall, I think it's a solid B for me.
I'm with our good friend D-Flow in our Switch chat. Zegras needs to be higher. He needs to be a B+ or higher. I agree with the production point, but I think when you have a guy that's only played 30 games, there's not enough of a sample size for that to normalize at all, and for it to kind of work its way back up to where it
we
should
can
be.
only judge on what happened.
No,
That
I
is the
know,
purpose of this
but
exercise.
that's the issue with judging a guy that's only played 30 games.
I mean, we
is
could
that
also go no grade, but in the games that he played, a B is what I'm giving him.
I would go with a B plus.
Okay. I mean,
I think I would just throw out production from that conversation, I guess would be my point, is that if you're judging it based on 30 games only,
that's goalpost shifty.
not really. If you're
shiftish.
If we're talking about that, you need a decent amount of a sample size to have scoring kind of come back to regress to where it should be. Like going off 30 games and talking about that to judge a player and using production only,
Well,
I think
there also were games where he just didn't have the level of impact that we've seen from him.
Sure. No,
Like,
I don't
just straight up.
I don't disagree, but I think he should be at a B plus.
Okay, that's fine.
Yep.
That is the first one you've disagreed with. Interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think giving him like higher than a B plus would be like he was. If you want to say he was better than what you expected, I think that's fine. But saying he's like in the A range would imply that he was like way above what you expected.
Fair.
And I just think that would be inaccurate. Jakob Silfverberg, I'm just giving him an A. He was like, he destroyed what I expected of him. I thought he was done. I thought he was washed up.
Yeah.
He was the Ducks' best defensive forward. He just looked good. He got his burst back with his skating. He made plays offensively. He's still not ever going to be like a top 6 forward again, but he had quite the send-off season. Like he just shattered whatever I expected of him.
His defensive impacts are just off the chart. And just, I mean, even though the production's not there, I don't think either of us expected him to produce anything really this season. And to be able to just do what he's done defensively is just so good. So, yes, completely agree. A.
Ryan Strome.
Where'd you go here?
I give him a B minus. So he's just not as good as what I expected. But I also think that, like, what are you realistically expecting of Ryan Strome? I thought that he's had streaks where I thought that he was playing really good hockey. He's also had streaks where I thought, like, what do you do here? But when he's gotten chances to play like with Trevor Zegras, I think that you see what he can do. And I think and also like looking at his tracking data, I think that there's some really interesting signals in there, which I think comport with what I've seen on the ice. So B minus, he was worse than I expected, but I don't think he was like this huge drag on the team either. He was somewhere between that.
I think you have to go a little bit lower. I think when you factor in the contract, I think that's the key part with the contract and the cap hit that he has and the production that he had over the course of the season, and how that just does. Like, if we're gonna knock Terry for not scoring enough at his $7 million and have that Terry's
also in his prime.
Sure,
I think that age should somewhat factor in.
Sure, but still, Ryan Strome, like, for what he's making at $5 million, like, it's nowhere near where it should be. I think B minus is way too kind. I would say probably a C.
What would have been a successful season points wise for Ryan Strome?
I guess it depends on his cap hit. If you're going cap hit or expectation.
Well, tell me what you think.
I would say a successful season for Ryan Strome would have been about 50 points.
Because he's gonna
hit about 40. Yeah.
Like, is that much worse?
No.
That's kind of my point. Like, I just don't think he was that far below.
I think B minus still just feels too generous to me. I think C plus is probably where I'd end up. Okay. I think that's a fair point from you, but yes. C+.
Not a huge difference, but yeah. I mean, C plus isn't terrible either. I could be talked into that. I also think the caveat that I wanted to add with Strome is he was playing with McTavish all season, and I'm not necessarily convinced that helped his numbers. Like, I'm not convinced that center pairing was necessarily conducive for his success. Now, some people may really freak out about that take, but I think McTavish showed a lot of warts in his defensive game this season. This one could really piss people off, so we'll see where it goes. Frank Vatrano. I'm giving him a B minus. So Frank Vatrano scored 34 goals.
You went there.
He scored a shit ton of goals this season, and he kind of almost gave it all back with his defensive game and his penalty taking habits. Like, I think maybe I'm being too harsh here, and I could give him a B, but he was below what I expected because although he scored a ton of goals, he was so destructive at times with his own play, whether it was at 5-on-5, whether it was in the penalty kill, whether it was with him taking penalties, that I think in the wash, he comes out slightly below what I expect. Like what I would expect from a kind of middle six winger is just like, hey, don't drag the team down. Like just kind of leave it how you found it. And with him, it's like, yeah, you're scoring goals, but you're also like, blunders defensively, ill-timed penalties,
knocking a net off.
not knowing the rules of the game. Like, I mean, it's just, I don't know. Am I being too harsh here with the B minus?
I mean, want to guess? I'm just curious. I was looking at Evolving Hockey's percentiles on their player cards. Guess what overall percentile he's at?
In what?
Just overall.
I don't know.
For 30th percentile.
I was going to say 30th. Damn it. I should have said it.
78th offensive, 3rd percentile defensively.
Yeah, like his defensive game was like both from the eye test and the stats. I just thought that he really struggled, and it's like I want to give him credit for the goal scoring. I really do, and I think I am here implicitly. It's just maybe you could talk me up to a B, but it's just in the wash. I think he just comes out below that.
Below
that average.
I think B because of the goals that he scored, the quantity of goals that were scored.
I wouldn't fight you on a B. I would fight you on a B plus.
Yeah, it's not an A, it's not a B plus, it's not an A minus. I think you're spot on with everything about giving it back defensively, but at the end of the day, he did score 34 goals.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I think he's above expectation from that perspective, below expectation from all the other sides of it, and so that leads you to expectation.
Isaac Lundestrom. I'm giving him a B. He was Isaac Lundestrom. He neither disappointed me nor excited me. He was just good old Isaac Lundestrom. He's going to get the puck back in the D zone. He's going to skate it into the offensive zone. He's going to go around the net. He's not going to look at the net. He's going to pass it to someone, hopefully on time. And
you realize that there was that exact play against LA in LA.
I didn't watch the game, but I can imagine that. And
yeah.
And he's never going to look quite bad enough for people to be out on him. He's also never going to look quite good enough for people to be fully in on him. He was just exactly what I expected. He was a B.
I would go B plus. I think he was better defensively than I was expecting. His numbers were not great the last couple of seasons defensively.
But he was like a negative offensively though. So like, I don't know. Sure.
I'd go B plus just because the negative offensively, I guess, was what I expected. The boost defensively, I was not necessarily expecting. So that's why I'd go B plus.
Okay. For sure. I mean, I can't get there, but another person I'm giving a B to, and this one is gonna rustle some feathers. Okay. Ruffle feathers, sorry. Is it rustle jimmies? Is that the term? Rustle some jimmies?
I don't know. These all just sound
just awful.
Yeah.
Max Jones. I'm giving him a B. He was exactly what I expected. He was just Max Jones. Like he didn't do anything that, like, I thought he had some really good games. Like for the first time in his career even, Max Jones had games where I was like, wow, Max Jones making plays with the puck, getting good shots off, like doing stuff. And then he also had the Max Jones games of old where he's just not really doing anything, taking penalties. He was just basically what I expected. I don't really have a lot to add or to subtract here.
I'd go C plus or B minus for Max Jones.
So that implies that he was worse than what you expected.
Yes.
So what did you expect?
I expected. I just don't think he brought anything really a whole lot to the table outside of his forechecking. I don't think he really did a whole lot to help generate offense. Wasn't great in support roles. Mm-hmm. Granted, some of that maybe was him being put in roles but they shouldn't be put in.
So did you expect anything more than that from him?
I expected more than just like being a good forechecker. Like I expected him to be like potentially a good fourth liner.
Okay. So you expected something that he had not necessarily shown.
Sure, I was hoping to see a jump from him
Okay.
this season, so I would probably go C plus. And I don't think we can like judge it just specifically off that, because if that's the case, then Ross Johnston gets a B because he's like what we would have
Ross
expected.
Johnson, in fact, gets a B. You guessed correctly.
This
Ross
curve,
Johnson,
I disagree with the concept of this curve. Then.
I'm holding players accountable to their own standards.
Okay, Max,
that's fair.
I disagree with this, but okay.
I'm giving him a B. Ross Johnson was bad. He did not help the team. He apparently was a great guy in the locker room, and he fought a lot, but that's exactly what I expected. So I can't go below that. He met my expectations.
Ross was bad. Ross was really, really bad.
I'm not gonna get.
Everyone's coming for you on this one.
I'm not gonna let Ross Johnson die for Pat Verbeek's and Greg Cronin's sins of putting him on the team and keeping.
Everyone is coming for you on this one.
Hey, I'm being fair to everyone in their individual capacity. I would do the same for all of you, by the way. I hope you know that. Maybe maybe you don't want to be held to your own standard. Maybe you want to be held to.
Ross Johnson is like a C minus at best.
I just don't know how you can give him an F
because he was that bad.
But again, if we're judging him on his curve, was he that far below his own performance?
I don't know if I knew what to expect. Yes, I will go yes.
Okay.
Because I think that he was like replacement level defensively in years prior, and he was not even that this season.
Okay. That's your prerogative. Next up, this will be an easier one. Leo Carlsson, I gave him an A. Leo Carlsson. So first and foremost, I did not expect Leo Carlsson to be in the NHL this season, and that really matters here. I didn't expect him to be in the NHL, and even as he started playing, like he looked great in preseason, but I was like, okay, let's see it in regular season games. Then he looks great in the regular season. It's like, okay, let's see if he can continue it, and he did. There were periods where there were lulls. There were periods of time where I thought that he wasn't as impactful offensively. Even in his recent games, there are times where, he's still figuring it all out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that Troy Terry is the easiest guy to play with offensively. I think that you kind of have to get used to that, especially as a Leo Carlsson, where you're used to being the guy who has the puck on his stick a lot. But he just smashed through everything I expected of him. It just sucks that he was injured as much as he was, but I'm giving him an A because he really exceeded what I expected by a lot.
Yeah, I would go with A.
Yeah, like I just my expectations were low. Were very low.
For based on your standards that got Ross Johnston down to up to a B. Yes, Leo should be an A.
B is like B. You're born at a B. Then it's up to you whether you want to lower that or increase that.
Well, it depends on where, what that expectation is. So based on your standards, yes, he's an A. I think even outside of that standard, Carl's or I guess limiting that standard a little bit and having the expectations in there, I think Carlsson is still an A for what he provided this season as adding in the context of him 18. Being a 19-year-old, 18-year-old, 19-year-old, that whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, people don't like the grades, but it's my podcast. Get to do what I want.
You are just getting called out right now.
If you guys want to give players their grades, go do a podcast or go write an article.
You're pulling that.
Go do it on your platform. It's fine. This is my house. You're invited into our home, but we still own the home. You don't have owner's rights here. Anyway, Mason McTavish. This one might piss people off.
Okay.
I struggled with this one.
Okay.
And I still do. I originally gave him a B.
Okay.
I think he is being knocked down to a B minus. Mason McTavish had great leaps offensively this season.
Yes.
His production needs to be commended. It needs to be praised. 19 goals, 23 assists, 42 points. There was a time where his point pace was a lot higher than it was. But, and this is a big but, much like his brother in arms, Frank Vetrano, it felt at times like he was giving it all back, right? And the numbers on the whole don't look awful, but his defensive game was just so far behind the curve at times. The penalty taking. Let me just repeat. The penalty taking. Really, really, really bad. And yes, young player, plenty to learn. He will improve, and he may one day be this team's captain. He may one day be an excellent top 6 center. All of those things can be true. And it also could be true that in this season, he was kind of a drag on this team at times. And I think that he, again, showed a lot of good, also showed a lot of bad. And I kind of expected a little bit more from him this season. I didn't expect him to kind of take this weird heel turn with the penalties and with the defensive play. I expected him to be better than this. And so that's why I'm going B-.
I think that's fair. I think I may go up to B because I think the strides he took offensively are really, really good strides. I also think the defensive lapses are really, really poor. So I think overall I'd probably end up at a B. I'm seeing I saw the comment pop up in our YouTube chat and knew that was just for you.
Federal income tax. Federal income tax. If you know, you know.
Okay. Yeah, I think B minus B is about right.
I mean, sure. If you want to talk B, I'm not going to fight you tooth and nail on it because I originally had a B. But, 40 points in the season, like, yeah, it looks fine, but it's not like, oh my gosh, time to give him an A.
Sure, but I mean, it's 42 points in 64 games.
Yeah.
Like that, when you like factor in just kind of points per game, that ends up looking a lot better from that perspective.
Yeah, I mean, times that by 82, that comes out to a 53-point pace.
I think I had said
are we doing
going,
a grade off of
going into the season? I think I said I wanted him to get up to 60 points. So yeah. On that context, sure, B minus.
My B minus is looking pretty good, as are my B's for certain players.
Not Ross Johnson. Get that out of here.
B plus for Brett Leeson. I didn't expect him to even be.
I would go A minus based on your standards.
Yeah, I mean, I think that being the owner of my own standards, I'm able to also modify them as it suits me. And I think that his absolute impact on the game wasn't necessarily that great. So he did exceed what I expected, but he also didn't really do much beyond that. The expectations are very, very low, but a B plus is well deserved. He played some good hockey. Honestly, he should have probably played more, but Greg Cronin being Greg Cronin and leaving Ross Johnson in the lineup, that was a thing. So yeah, Brett Leeson B plus.
So you're adjusting your standard and your grading curve for Brett Leeson.
I'm basically the U.S. Supreme Court. I'm just going to retrofit the argument and the standards to the desired outcome.
Okay.
That's what we do. That's what we do, baby. Okay.
Brett Leeson A minus for me.
Moving on to the blue line here. Cam Fowler B minus. I think this is a perfectly fair B minus to me. Like Cam Fowler, first things first, Cam Fowler, not a good season statistically. Negative defensive impacts, negative offensive impacts, little okay defensively. But I just think overall, there were just a lot of times where I was kind of wondering what he was necessarily bringing to this team. I do think that the mitigating factor is that he should not have been playing as much as he was playing. There's no reason for him to be playing 25 plus minutes a night. He also had to play with a lot of rookie defensemen like Olin Zellweger, Jackson Lacombe for long stretches, and I think that probably hurt his overall numbers. So he was a little worse than what I've expected because he set a high bar for himself, but I'm not going to go much below that. And so B minus to me is very fair.
Yep, I would go with that also. I think this one is more so the position he's been put in, and I think that is it. I think that he did not play up to expectation, but I also think he's been put in a tough spot and should not be playing as many minutes he's had. I think C plus, B minus would be fair.
Radko Gudas A minus.
A.
I really
straight A.
Penalties.
Straight A.
Well, if we're gonna hold other players to the penalties, then he must be held to that as well.
I also think what he's brought goes above and beyond the penalties.
You could say that, but I think A minus is still a great grade. I mean, he had great impacts. He was the most reliable defenseman, I think, just overall. Didn't necessarily bring a ton offensively, but he's just very complete. He adds a leadership dynamic and takes a lot of penalties, which is a big problem.
You could say that should be expected of him because that's what he does. Boom.
But it still hurts the team, though. And my expectation was not
Ross Johnston.
My expectation was not that he would take a destructive amount of penalties for the team. I did not expect that.
Okay.
I mean, shame on me for not expecting that.
Shame on you for not expecting a guy that takes a lot of penalties to take a lot of penalties.
Jackson Lacombe. This is a tough one. This is a Rorschach test of sorts, because on one hand, Jackson Lacombe, there were moments where he really, really shined, and he really brought something that was intriguing with his puck moving ability, with his feet, with his skating, with some of his physicality. Like he's got good size and he can use it. There were also a lot of gaffes. There were also a lot of errors. There were growing pains.
Yeah.
And so on the whole, in the aggregate, I expect growing pains and I expect ups and downs for a young defenseman in his rookie year.
Also, he was played on his offside.
A B. B to me is perfectly fair for Jackson Lacombe. I think he was flirting with B plus for a little while, but he came back down to B.
For me, he's flirting with B minus, and I think that's a lot better than where he was. Granted, it was him being put in a bad spot.
I think he also got put in bad situations.
For sure.
Like, the team literally said we put him in bad spots. So,
yeah. I think B minus B is fair. I think
just judging him entirely off of like charts is kind of doing him a disservice if you take a more holistic view of his game. Because the charts don't look good, but I think there's a lot of mitigating reasons for that.
Sure.
There's also reasons for his own game that have some, like, he's a contributing factor to those results.
Sure.
But that's what I would expect from a young defenseman, right?
B minus / B, slightly below expectation or at expectation is where I would have it.
Yeah. Pavel Minchikov, I'm going with an A minus.
A.
I think that his two-way game kind of waned as the season went on.
Sure, but did you expect this from him at all? I guess would be the question going into the season.
No, I didn't expect him to be in the NHL.
Exactly.
And he blew through that. He was great offensively. When he got a chance to play on the power play, he was awesome. He really brought a whole nother dimension, and just his ability to defend in all three zones, killing plays in the offensive zone before there's even a breakout, killing plays in the neutral zone, turning the play really quickly with his feet in the defensive zone. Like, the sky is really the limit for this player. I love the way he plays. There were some moments that concerned me, but overall, like, the fact that he was able to do this so seamlessly without any AHL time, it's an A minus for me. A minus.
It's a clear A if we're going off your curve of what were you expecting. You weren't expecting him to be in the NHL, and then he does all that. A. Easy A.
I mean, I'm not going to fight you on the A. I think A is totally fair. I think A minus is where I landed, but if you want to say A, like, I think that's reasonable too.
Okay.
Olin Zellweger. Again, it's going to piss people off. A minus. A minus. That minus is going to rattle some cages.
I would actually go with a B.
A B. Okay. Well, let me lay out my reasoning. So I think that this season is a lot better than what I expected, because when he came out in training camp, he just plainly didn't look NHL ready. And I really wasn't sure if he was going to be able to make the jump to the NHL this season. And what did he do? He had a great season in San Diego. He was an AHL All-Star. He then made the jump to the NHL and honestly looked really, really good doing it. And I didn't think he had that. I really was not sure. Now, his NHL experience has been a little up and down, as you would expect the young defenseman, but there's been some really high highs, and the lows have been low, but they haven't been that frequent. So to me, an A minus, I feel really good about the A minus.
I think a B for me, mainly because I think this is kind of what I expected. I maybe even expected more. Expected him to be with the Ducks for
I think
more
that's
of this season.
Problem, though.
For sure,
I think
but
it was unfair to expect.
Sure, but You're asking me for my grade based on my expectation.
I think your expectations were wrong.
Sure, but that was my expectation. So based on my expectation, a B.
Okay. I think B is woefully harsh, but
okay,
that's fine. That's fine. Gustav Lindstrom, B.
Yeah,
He was fine. He was fine.
He
was honestly kind of good sometimes.
Maybe B plus.
Eero Vakanainen, B plus.
A minus.
The fact he's in the NHL is great.
Yeah.
I'm not really completely sure what he did beyond that. So B plus. He might be a Radko Gudas merchant.
B plus, A minus. The fact that he's in the NHL and playing minutes is more than I expected.
I mean, that's great for him, but the threshold is a little higher for me.
Okay.
Higher.
Hey, you're the one setting this based on expectations, like Ross Johnson. I'm just following it.
Do not keep track of how I'm doing this.
I'm following along with your curve right now.
Do not follow along. Actually,
don't follow along for people listening.
John Gibson. Let's see. I'm curious what the gut reaction is going to be. I gave him a B plus. So, on the whole, his numbers this season, not great. Like 1.02 goals saved above expected, save percentage under 900. But I kind of expected a little worse from him this season. Like I think he actually the fact that he was well above expected for a good while. I think that he deserves, at least for me, he deserves a B plus because I didn't think he could do this anymore. That he could just be average for a season. And that's kind of what he was. So I'm giving him a B plus.
I mean, he's 1.02 GSAX on the season. I think there's a lot of recency bias in my head because my gut reaction was C or C plus.
I think that's harsh.
But no. Hear me out here. I think that's recency bias tinted though. And so I think removing the recency bias, looking at the last couple of seasons for him, and then kind of using that to set an expectation for this season. I think the fact that he was above expectation this season, and this would be the first time that he's above expectation. Man, I'm trying to look when the last time he would have been.
It's been years. It's been like 5 years.
He has not been above expectation. I keep adding more years. I think probably since 18-19. Yeah.
Yep.
18-19 was the last year he was above expectation at one. And so at 1.02, I would say
he was oh no, sorry, I'm looking at Dostal. Never mind.
I would probably say a B. So I think my expectation,
to be at expected
average. Yes.
Okay. I didn't think he could necessarily do that anymore. Like he just hadn't shown it. And so in fairness to him, he met a criteria that I wasn't totally sold he could meet. He did, and I will give him his flowers. Also not the easiest team to play for. The nature of their turnovers, the nature of the chances they give up. It's not a goalie-friendly environment. And I think this year, I think what helps him, and now we can get into him, is Lukas Dostal. I'm also giving him a B+.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
My thing with Dostal is that we just straight up didn't know what he would be in the NHL. And he was almost exactly as expected. 0.4 goals saved above expected. The save percentage looks better than Gibson's, but with that context of the GSAX, we didn't know. And I think for him to come in and just be an average NHL goalie is probably more than what you could expect from kind of a rookie goalie.
I would go B plus for him.
That's what I said, B plus. Yeah.
Yep.
And so I do think that not having an Anthony Stolarz, who's putting up great numbers, kind of helps Gibson's case a little bit because it's like both goalies were about average. Both goalies were playing behind this defense. And Dostal actually played a fair bit of games too. So it's not like he started in 37 games. So I think the goalies were good this season. I don't think, when we look back in history at this season, I don't think goaltending is what did them in.
Yeah. I think probably I think people have a bad taste in their mouths with Gibson looking at some of the Twitch and YouTube chat. I think that's largely recency bias tinted.
I mean, if you want to judge him on being a $6 million plus goalie, that's totally fair. That's totally fair. I'm judging him off the fact that he hasn't been above expectation in 5 years.
Which, to be fair, we've judged a lot of other players based on their cap hit.
Yeah, but I think with Gibson, there's just a bit more of an accumulation there's a wear and tear, there's a backstory that I think some of the other guys just don't have, and
Yeah, that's fair.
I think it should be considered. Um, you know, some people may not like it, but that's hey, if you want to dole out your grades, you know what to do. We've already laid that out. And last, and actually least, Greg Cronin. Greg Cronin, I expected him to make this team better. I expected this team to be like, I expected more. Let's just put it this way. I expected
Okay.
more from Greg Cronin. I expected like a pretty significant step forward. I expected a team, and this might not be fair to Greg Cronin because I just maybe didn't understand Greg Cronin, but I expected a guy who was going to come in and really empower his top players. And I sometimes feel like he didn't really do that. And yes, a lot of this is because I'm thinking about Trevor Zegras, but I just don't feel like he really helped this team reach its ceiling this season. Like I just think empowering Newell Brown to basically be the one-man show running the power play, seeing how that power play was run, kind of freezing out the young players from the power play at times. Yes, they got better defensively. They still weren't a good defensive team. Like that's the whole thing is that yes, they were better because the year before they were historically bad. Now they were just merely bad. And so you put that together, the awful special teams, the offensive game being as bad as it was the year before. I'm giving him a C+. He was below what I expected. Not a bad coach, but and also the penalty taking just never going away. That falls at the coach's feet.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm the harshest on the coach than I am. Maybe I'm harsher on the coach than I am on the players. Maybe he's more deserving of a B-. You could certainly talk me into a B-.
I think I would go B-, largely due to the injury bug that he was dealt this season and what he had to work around that. Now, granted, he didn't necessarily come up with any solution there, so I don't think that that's something that pushes him to expectation.
Yeah.
But I think this team did take steps forwards. They did improve defensively significantly this season as compared to last season. Offensively, no. But I think it's hard to really look at the offensive side of it when you only have Trevor Zegras for 30 games this season. And you have, what? I think it was 5 games in total with a healthy top 6. Like, that is a significant portion of the season without having your full, healthy top 6 going.
Like the fact
and
that
so
Terry was like worse this season is troubling
sure.
to me.
No, but my point here is that I'm still not saying he's above expectation or even at expectation. I think he's B-. But I think all that being considered, the fact of the injuries, I think that
it's a mitigating factor.
Yes. And so I think that pushes him to B-.
But he just really soured. I really soured on him as the season went along because I started off being very excited about him. And then I think what really kind of pushed me down in terms of the grade is that it never felt like he really adjusted. It just felt like they were just trying to do the same thing all season long. And it just never felt like there was this kind of like, hey, maybe we should try something different. Maybe we should change some of the things that we're doing. Maybe the players just weren't executing. Who knows? Like, and I want to say all this and say this. I still think Greg Cronin could be a great coach. I think that he has all the makings of a great coach. I think that the guys do seem to play for him. Now, some of the recent performances notwithstanding, but I think that he does bring a level of accountability, which is important. I do think that he has brought a culture of defensive attention to detail hockey that is important. And I think if he can, and he's also shown, just kind of listening to him talk, that I think he's a student of the game. I think he has the capacity to go back this offseason and really look at the film because we know that he loves looking at video, that he could learn and be like, okay, this is what we need to fix and come back next season. He was a rookie NHL coach. Maybe I should give him more of leeway. You know what? Screw it. I'll bump him up to B-. There. This is the first amended grade. B- it is. But he could still come back and be a great coach and lead this team to a playoff spot. But for this season, he did not meet my expectations.
Yep. Agreed.
And those are the grades.
All right. We have some Patreon or questions on our Discord. We're a little long. So I think everyone in Twitch and YouTube chat, I think we are just going to stick with our Patreon Discord for our questions to try to get through this, seeing as we've given you an hour 15 already. Don't want this to be a
Well,
2-hour episode.
So just so everyone knows, I am taking a bit of a podcast sabbatical for the next 3 weeks. So I don't mind going a little longer today because I won't
Okay.
be back for
Okay.
3 more weeks.
Well, let's get through Discord.
Yeah.
And
We'll
then
see
maybe
where we're at.
we'll answer some things from Twitch and YouTube. So real quick though, just to find us at Twitch and YouTube, go to twitch.tv/crashthepond, where if you have Amazon Prime, you get 1 free Twitch Prime gaming sub each and every month, and it does help more than you can imagine. You just be just like our friend Lewis X209, who subbed for 67 months. So thank you, Lou, and our good friend Literate Gal, who also subbed for 67 months. Wow. And you could also be like, or also join us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com/crashthepond, where you can subscribe to our channel. Please like every video that you're watching. Let's have a little bit of a like spike, please, here right now. Yeah, like our video if you're watching this on YouTube. Like spike. And to Felix's point also about the sabbatical, I will be joining him on that for a little bit of a break. But
we're going to a podcaster's retreat.
Yeah, there may or may not be an episode next week. That is currently up in the air right now. So keep your eyes out. If it is, I will have someone on with me. And also shout out Brandon Pineda, who just resubbed with Prime for his 16th month. Thank you so much for that. So let's see. Shake and Wink said, will his coaching staff bring the Ducks a cup? If yes, what about them makes you think so? If no, why keep them?
Great question. I think the yes is because Greg Cronin just seems like a guy that players want to play for. And I think that matters. The no is that Greg Cronin so far has not shown great adjustments. And so remains to be seen.
Agreed. Mr. Jared said, as the season comes to an end. Oh, we already did this one.
This is the one, yeah.
This is where I just read Discord and realize halfway through reading it. All right. D Frenzy said, I'd love a little bit more of an in-depth dive on this one. I know it can be tough. Did the Ducks take any kind of step forward compared to last year or in this rebuilding process in general? Are the Ducks still on track to be a cup contender after 3 more seasons? Verbeek, I believe, mentioned at one of the season ticket holder events they were in year 3 of 6 of a 6-year rebuild.
So I think they're fully on track to be a cup contender still. Just look at the amount of good players coming into the system. It's inevitable that this team is going to contend for the playoffs and eventually the cup.
Yep. And I think, did the Ducks take any step forward compared to last year? Yes.
Yeah, we talked about it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And the rebuilding process, I mean, hell, Pat Verbeek made one of his signature trades this season that helps this rebuild by trading Drysdale for Gauthier.
Well, and also look at the Sabres and the Senators this season. You know, it's not necessarily going to be linear.
Well, and I mean, you see Pavel Minchkov coming up. You see Olen Zellweger. You're seeing the proof in the pudding right now of the guys that have been drafted that are coming.
Yeah.
So Extend Leeson Drumbinger said, not a question, but this year's iteration of the Ducks sort of reminds me of the 01-02 Ducks in a way. Baseline stats didn't reflect improvement, but they were a much better team defensively than 2000-2001 Ducks. 2000-2001 Ducks finished the season with 66 points, while the 01-02 Ducks finished with 69 points, a mere 3-point improvements on the standings, but they gave up 245 goals in 01 and 198 in 02. Sure.
I think that's a fair comp. I mean, I didn't watch any of those teams, so I don't know. But the thought that the final kind of standings don't look that much better, but I do think that this year's team was substantially better than last year's.
Yes, agreed. Olaf is Berserker said, biggest disappointment this season, the overall level of play from the team or the amount of time missed by Zegras, Carlson, and McTavish?
That is a tough one.
Oh, it's the last one for me.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the first one, but I get the second one too.
The second one, it's almost from a fan enjoyment perspective.
Just from an enjoyment, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Max Jones Truther said, favorite Jakob Silfverberg moment?
For me, it was just all the shootout goals. That year,
he was so automatic.
He just did the same thing every time, and that perfect wrist shot to the far side. I think we can't understate how impressive that is, given how much goalies study shooters and how they know it's coming, and they still couldn't stop it. Goalies eventually caught on, but man, that run was special.
For me, I think I mentioned this, but the goal in 2015 against the Jets, I was at that game, so it just sticks out in my head. And everyone walking out of the arena, going down the stairs from the 400 level at Honda Center, singing "Ooh Ah Silverberg."
I
Like
mean, honestly,
that.
my favorite moment might be his send off. Like
Fair.
that was
Like
awesome.
for me, just everyone going down the stairs singing "Ooh, Silverberg" was just kind of one of those moments you had to be there.
Yeah.
And so that to me, all of that is there. Brad said, "We all hope for and expect better things next year. What's the biggest reason to be optimistic? 1, healthier team. 2, revamped bottom 6. 3, Gauthier. 4, potential changes in assistant coaches."
Oh, I'm gonna go with revamped bottom 6. And
Okay,
the reason I say that is because I think that that's just gonna put everything in the right spot.
fair.
And when that happens, it's gonna allow guys to thrive. But probably the actual answer is just healthier team.
Yeah, that's where I was gonna go. All right, quick. Who stays? Who goes? Grew, stay or go?
Go.
Johnston.
Stay.
Yeah, he's under contract. Jones.
Go.
Leeson.
Go.
Lundestrom.
Go.
Lindstrom.
Go.
Myers.
Stay.
Vakanainen.
Go.
Okay. Heyo Deflos.
You disagree with any of those?
Uh,
Maybe Lundestrom?
maybe Lindstrom. One of Lindstrom or Vakanainen, I think, stays.
Okay.
Heyo Deflo said, "Will the President's Trophy winners advance to the Cup final?"
You know, I'm calling BS on our good buddy Mike here because he knows that we have issues with the Rangers and he doesn't like that we do. And yet he's still inviting this debate. So
Yeah.
I don't know what to think of it anymore. But will
They will not make the Cup final.
I don't think so. I think they have a great team, but I think the East goes through Carolina. The East goes through Carolina.
Carolina or Florida.
I think Carolina is like much better than Florida.
Okay. Yegor Mania said, "Which 2 prospects have a better chance of making the team next year? Sam Colangelo, Ben King, Jan Mishak, or Nikita Nestorenko?"
Great question. It's gonna be. I think Colangelo, just pencil him in, and then I think Jan Mishak is my number 2.
Okay.
I just think he plays Cronin hockey to a T.
Okay. Let's. Oh, this was about giving letter grades, and we already did that. Cookie Riveth said, "How many Cookie goals do we see next season?" For those that don't know, an inside bit on the Discord is Cutter Gauthier, his nickname is Cookie.
Because of cookie cutter, the
Yep.
term. Yeah.
So how many goals does he have next season?
I'll say 25.
Ooh.
Big number.
You know, screw it. I'll go 30. Let's be confident here.
If he's healthy, I think 25 is within reach.
Mitch Brown's Beloveds brings up the eligibility rule for the Calder and that it's more than 25 games. Olin Zellweger has played exactly 25 games. Do you think he should be scratched for the final game of the season so he has a chance to go for the Calder next season?
No, I disagree with that.
Yeah,
You know why?
let him play.
Well, also it's like, what if he gets hurt in the off season? Like, what if he? I mean, heaven forbid, but like, what if he like tears his Achilles or like and misses half the season? Like, nothing is promised. So take advantage of today.
Yep. Olaf is Berserker said, "Who wins the Hart?"
Well, we just did a whole Patreon episode on this.
Yes.
So go check that out. But I'm going to say Nathan McKinnon. Although Connor McDavid just got to 100 assists. That is a big number.
I'm going Nathan McKinnon still. Extend Leeson Drumbanger said, "Am I the only one here that feels like this team needs another year of development?"
No, you're not the only one. Like, this team development includes playing meaningful games and learning what that's about. Like even if they are pushing for the playoffs next year and they miss it, or they kind of end up in that like 70-ish, 80-ish point range, that's still development. They still need to learn what that feels like because they haven't done that yet.
Yep, agreed. And then our good friend Mike said, "Will Jake finally rightfully place Artemi Panarin in his top 5 for the Hart Trophy?"
Why is Defo just chasing debate?
He's bringing this on himself at this point.
Why is he embracing debate?
He is trying to have this debate come on.
Let me ask you this: If the Penguins make it, do you have Crosby above Panarin?
Yes.
In the MVP race, I think I do too.
Yes.
And I don't have him in the top 5 for what it's worth.
I don't think Panarin is my 5th.
He's had a great season.
Yes. That is not necessarily meant to be a criticism either.
No.
I may have Elias Pettersson above.
Quinn Hughes.
Yeah.
I mean, like if we want to open up that field, like there's a lot of guys. Nick
Yeah.
Suzuki.
Yeah. All right. You want to get to questions from Twitch and YouTube, or we good?
Sure. Why not?
Okay. So Twitch and YouTube, please start throwing questions in. I've got some on Twitter, though. I was not planning to get to them, but we can get to them now while we wait for people to throw questions in the chat. Put Q's or question in front of it just for ease. So let's see. So Trevor Zegras brought up. Wait, what did I to? What was I not paying attention to? Crap.
I'm not even gonna tell you. You're gonna have to go back and listen.
I don't like that. I'm not going to.
You just agreed to something hilarious.
As you caught me like when I was like off guard, like running through things. Crap.
Yep. Hilarious.
I don't like that.
Hilarious.
So he brings up the Ducks 2027 offseason has Zegras as an RFA, Carlson as an RFA, Minchikov as an RFA, Zellweger as an RFA, Gauthier as an RFA. What would you guys say the chances of the Ducks having all of these players signed and all on the team following the 27-28 season, or the following season would be?
So we're talking about
Zegras, Carlson, Minchikov, Zellweger, Gauthier, all RFAs summer of 2027. What are the chances of them all being on the team in 27-28?
I'm going to say 95%.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And then Hockey South said, does Cutter fit better on the wing of Carlson or Zegras? And he said, this is from Hockey South. Love the pod. Keep it going.
Ooh, I think he fits great with either. I don't think that there's a. I think Zegras is more of a behind the net threat, and that opens up a lot of options for Cutter. Zegras also maybe resembles more of like Gabe Perreault and Will Smith, so he might just be used to that type of player. But I just don't think that, like, a lot of Leo Carlson's playmaking is off the rush, whereas Zegras can do both. Like that pass he had to Vetrano, the against the grain, no look from behind. I mean, like Carlson doesn't have that in his bag quite yet. So I'll say Zegras is a better fit.
Okay. From our YouTube chat, Mighty Maniac said, who do you want Verbeek to target this offseason, trade or free agent?
Who do I want him to target? Well, we keep saying Marty Necas. I don't know if he's going to be able to get him, but actually, I've been thinking of this. I've been thinking of bringing this up, but the Canadians have too many defensemen. They need to trade some. I think Jonathan Kovacevic, right shot D, good numbers, would make a lot of sense on their third pairing. So I'll go with him as my fringe target.
Okay.
I'm not really excited about the Stamkos thing.
Yeah, I don't love this. I didn't love the Stamkos thing to begin with.
Even Marchessault, it's like
Marchessault I'd feel a bit better about. I think that there's a bit more there from an aging perspective.
I don't know. He's not young either.
No, I know, but I think he's aging better, I think, than Stamkos has. I mean, just from underlying numbers perspective. Yeah. Stamkos you signed specifically for the power play.
Like I don't think Stamkos is a bad pickup. I'm not necessarily as enthused about that pickup.
Yeah. Camzet said, question, if we don't win the lottery, who do the Ducks draft in the top 5? Any of the people in that list, or in that area, I would say. I don't have a great idea at this point. We'll definitely get into that a bit more as we get more into the draft, though. Unless, do you have a name?
Well, so I think that the two guys who have kind of been, to me, the Verbeek guys, let's just say they get 3. They stay where they're at. I still think Caden Lindstrom, despite all the time he missed and his injury, I just think he's a big forward, kind of in that power forward build. I think that Pat Verbeek is going to eat that up. And then Artem Levshinov from Michigan State. Like there are warts in his game, but he's a right shot D. He's got size. He's got offensive ability. He fills a hole for the Ducks. Like there are other guys who I think make a lot of sense for them too. Actually, the more I look into this draft, the more I like it. But I think those are the two guys that I would peg as the team would be targeting.
Levshinov, I think, is my pick there. But yeah. X Nicholas Rage on Twitch actually asked a similar question that we already answered, but want to give him a shout out asking about your biggest target for the Ducks. Now I see. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, Nick Suzuki. You saw
Nick,
it?
Nick Suzuki,
Better
more
than Panarin.
deserving. Yeah, sure.
Nick Suzuki is a better defensive player than
There.
Artemi Panarin.
Okay. Sparkman said, question for Felix: do the Warriors make it out of the play-in?
Oh, this has just been such a painful season, but I'm gonna say yes. I'm a cockeyed optimist.
Hammock M said, question: should the NHL eliminate the rule where goals overturned because of an offside that occurred 30 seconds or 60 seconds or some inordinate amount of time prior to the goal?
No, the bright line just works. It's gonna be unenforceable otherwise.
I also, yeah, I think that works. And also, like, if you don't like it, don't go offsides.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that's the, like, people are always saying it's so unfair because it's like it happened so far before, all this different type of stuff. If you don't like it, don't go offside. Like, the whole, like, framing of it needs to not be that it took a goal off the board to instead being the linesman didn't make the right call. Like,
yeah,
that.
I just think that there's not really a great alternative. That's the bigger problem. Because I agree in principle, like it shouldn't change. You shouldn't take something away because something that happened like a minute prior, especially if it was borderline. But there's just not a great way to enforce it otherwise.
And I'm team offside review, by the way. I don't want it to go away.
I'm team human error.
Okay.
Team human error.
I'm team offside review. I'm good with it. No issues.
Bring the error back into the
my
game.
issue, I guess here's my issue with it. They need to figure out a way to have something like what soccer has or things like that. Have some sort of plane where it is a very quick check.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's not a long thing, where it's not this difficult thing that you have to take forever to figure out. Like, make it very quick and simple. He's on, he's off, and that's it. Like, doesn't need to be this long review process if you set up some sort of have some sort of technology in place, basically, to be able to make that. I mean, soccer has goal line technology with the to see if the ball's in or not.
Chips and pucks. Chips and
pucks have some sort of plane where you can tell if a skate's over it or not, or back behind it, like things like that. Let's see. P Blaster said, question, who could move up from the farm system next year?
Great question. And honestly, so is farm system including is it including the junior ranks or just San Diego?
Sure.
I don't think anyone is really primed to make a jump next year in San Diego. And, there are guys who maybe make a jump. Maybe Jan Mysak might be the one because he's just kind of fitting that mold. But Nikita Nesterenko got called up. That was a thing.
Pavel Regenda got called up at one point.
I just, Drew Hellison makes a lot of sense. He should probably get a look. Like, he's 23. Like, he's going to be 24 next season. It probably is time to give him a look, but they haven't. And so I don't know. It's probably Mysak and Hellison for me, but it's not a very long list in San Diego.
Okay. Let's end with this one. Kevin Mulligan said, what do you think the Ducks jersey situation will look like next season? I hope that there's a change. We'll see if there ends up being that. I know that there was that Fanatics leak that made it seem like they aren't making a change. Something kind of seems fishy with that. So, I don't know. I hope that something's going to change.
Hope so. We shall see. And I also want to add that on the San Diego thing, it's not because I don't think there's any talent in San Diego. There's just a lot of guys that are going to be young next season that are just going to need that time. Like Sidorov, who we didn't even talk about, who got his ELC, Mijatovic, Petrie. There's going to be guys who just are going to need the time. And like even Nathan Gaucher probably needs another year. So it's not that there's no talent down there. It's just that they just need time. So anyway,
what are you being left off the hook for?
I don't know.
What did you have a bet with Plant Wrench?
A what?
What was the bet with Plant Wrench?
And now Mike is upset. I said Nick Suzuki is a better defensive player, even though it's true.
What was the bet that you're backing out of?
I'm not backing out of any bet. So before the season, the basketball season, my good buddy Plant Wrench in Discord, that is his screen name. That's probably not his name in real life, just so everyone knows.
Mr. Wrench to you.
Plant
PhD.
plant space wrench. We made a bet that he said that the New Orleans Pelicans would have a better record than the Miami Heat, and I made the big mistake of thinking the Miami Heat were gonna show up in the regular season. That's just not what they do. They did not do that, and the Pelicans had a good season. They did not make the playoffs outright. They're in the play-in, but he was right. I was wrong. That's the end of that story. I'm owning up to it. Look at me. Good on me. Pat my back. Shower me with praise for owning up to my mistakes.
Okay. Let's get on out of here. We're over an hour and a half.
Yep. Thank you for listening, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. And next time we talk to you, it'll be in a few weeks, although there may be one next week that is up in the air. Can't wait to see Cutter Gauthier on the ice for the Ducks. That should be fun. If you want to help support the podcast, though, there's some very easy ways for you to do that. Number one, check out our Patreon. So go to patreon.com/crashthepond. The link will be in the episode description. For $2 a month, you get access to our patrons-only Discord server. Awesome place to connect with people, connect with fellow diehard Ducks fans, connect with us, see all of our ramblings, all our debates. There's pretty much a hockey-related debate every single day in there, so it's a lot of fun.
I have a gut feeling there will be a debate about Nick Suzuki coming up soon.
Flo is just pretending the stats just aren't the stats, which is fine. That's kind of what Rangers fans have to do, unfortunately, given their 5-on-5 numbers. But what was I saying? And then for $7.50 a month, you get access to the Discord server plus 2 bonus podcasts. So we do 2 bonus episodes where we talk about whether it's the Ducks, whether it's the rest of the league. We picked our awards winners for the season. That was a lot of fun. Also, sometimes we're able to react to things a little more quickly with the Patreon podcast. So like we did one right after the Zegras benching, which we didn't get to for a few more days afterwards on the regular show. You also get player breakdown videos. So one thing that I've been doing every month there is the goals update. So a video that just goes into a game of a bunch of different goals prospects. So you really get a chance to kind of know what's going on with the goals. And I try to do other videos as well, other NHL players or other Ducks players. So go check that out. You can also leave us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to us on Spotify. Subscribe on YouTube. Check out our website. Go get your merch. We've got really good T-shirts. Vibes HC. It's back.
It's still here.
It's still here. It never left. Also, find us on social media. Find us on Twitter. And on that note, thank you for listening, everyone. Happy end of the season. We'll talk to you soon. Actually, next time we both talk to you, we might have a draft lottery result to talk about. So stay tuned.
Bye.